namely Tammy King, by shooting her with a firearm, and the defendant was then and there in the course of committing or attempting to commit the offensive robbery of Tammy King against the peace and dignity of the state and signed by the foreperson of the grand jury.
And to this charge, how do you plead guilty or not guilty? Your plea of not guilty will be entered into the minutes of the record. Thank you. Go ahead and have a seat. Each side has 15 minutes. You may proceed.
Thank you. We all remember our first young love. Young love is supposed to be new. It's supposed to be exciting and fun, filled with butterflies and first dates. And a lot of us experience that in high school, when there's a lot of things going on, things are changing, and it's supposed to be a fun, exciting time. But sometimes it turns into something darker. And it turns into something darker when somebody is going down a path and takes the other person with them. That is what happened with Uriah Urick and his girlfriend, Tammy King. Both of them were high school students for Dickinson, and ultimately they started talking, they started dating, and as many teenagers, they fall head over heels in love and begin a relationship. Both of them were described as kind of artsy, quiet, a little bit more kept to themselves. People who talk about Tara would tell you that she was shy, but if you talked to her, she was really friendly, and she would tell you about anything. But what they would also tell you is as she starts dating Uriah, they notice that he becomes possessive, that he's pulling her away from her friends. He's isolating her. He's speaking for her. She's getting quieter and quieter until the only person she speaks to is Uriah. Now, Tara has been raised by her grandmother, Tammy, and they live in a house in Bay Cliff. And Tara has lived with Tammy since she was about 2 years old. Tammy, in fact, adopted her. Now, teenage boy sleeping in her granddaughter's bedroom. This caused anger. As I said, over time, things between Uriah and Tara started getting more possessive, started getting darker. Friends started noticing that she was pulling away and becoming more isolated. You will also meet somebody named Terry Hutton. Terry was somebody who was in a relationship with Tammy King, who had known the family for almost 40 years, who had known Tara for her entire life. And he will tell you that he noticed Tara and Tammy fighting more and more. And it typically surrounded either Uriah or Tara going to school and finishing her degree, her high school diploma. You're going to hear from Terry, who on February 4th, 2025, he had a normal day with Tammy. Came by and visited her. He was at their house till the late evening hours. And he saw Tara and Uriah there. They ordered Taco Bell DoorDash. Nothing seemed amiss. It seemed like a normal day. Tammy was laughing. Tammy was happy. They'll tell you they were cutting up. Terry left that night, texted Tammy goodnight, and went to sleep. Just a normal day. What Terry didn't know was Tara and Uriah had launched a plan. And that night, they finally decided they were going to go through what they'd been planning for months. What I expect you to see through evidence of their Instagram records and other communications is that they had thought about how they needed to get rid of Tammy. See, Tammy had some of Tara's inheritance that was waiting for her when she turned 18. It was about $10,000 in cash. Tammy also had some family jewelry. And Tammy also was in possession of hundreds of firearms. While that may strike you as odd, it's because Tammy's late husband had owned a gun store. And when he passed and the store shut down, all of the gun product came to Tammy's house. And it was in safes and tubs and put away for the most part. But they were very expensive guns, and a lot of them. And you will see through the Instagram messages between Tara and Uriah that they knew that all of that could buy them a new life, that they could run away together, that they could live their happily ever after with that $10,000 and those guns and that jewelry. But Tammy was in the way. And you will see that as time went on, Uriah got more and more adamant about needing to get rid of Tammy. You'll see in his messages him saying, "Please let me kill her. Let me do it today. Can I shoot her tomorrow?" You then will see Tara back and forth with him. "I don't know. He says I won't do it without your permission. Yeah, we need to get rid of her. This is the start of our happily ever after." All the way up to that night, Tuesday night, they send out the message to each other, "We ride at dawn." Their plan was set. They spent the remainder of that night planning, getting their stuff together, getting high. And in the morning hours of February 5th, Tammy is texting Terry Hutton, and she is frustrated because Tara slept in again and Tara's not going to school. So now we have another point of contention. And it is the perfect excuse for Uriah and Tara to execute their plan. Ultimately, Tammy is laying in her bed. She's been texting Terry, and Uriah walks in. And you will find from the Instagram messages he discusses that he actually tried to shoot her with a .22 first, but it jammed. So that didn't make him stop and second guess. We grabbed another gun. He grabbed an AR 5.56, and he stood behind Tammy, and he shot her in the head, and he left her there to die. Now that's where we get to her death. But they weren't done. Remember, they wanted this $10,000 and these guns and this jewelry. You will also see through their phones and social media that they had already located the codes for the safe, the passwords. You will then see through their phone messages, through their images, that they then proceeded to open up these gun safes. They took the $10,000. They took the jewelry. They went through Tammy's purse, stole all of her credit and debit cards, her Cash App card. They loaded up with guns. They stole her phone. And they began massively asking their friends on social media for a ride. You'll see that they started sending out $500 for anyone to take us to Illinois, $1,000 for anyone to take us to Wyoming, and incessantly calling their friends, "We need a ride, we need a ride, we'll sell you guns, we'll give you money, we need a ride." The first person that answers them is Nathan Anderson, who you will hear from, who was going to give them a ride, but ultimately his mom saw that he wasn't where he was supposed to be and made him come on home. So he helped them get in touch with his friend Rigoberto. You will also hear from how he pulled up to that house. They made him stay on the phone until he got there. They made him back in the driveway, not look, see what they were doing, while they loaded up the trunk, and they got in the car. Ultimately, Rigoberto took them to another friend, Christian, in Pearland, who worked at Energy Metals. Christian then took them to his house, his apartment in League City, where they stayed for the next 2.5 days. They offered Christian to pay him in guns. They're like, "I don't know about that, just give me $300 a night." So they did. You'll hear from Christian that over those 2 days that they were there, they first went to Walmart, where they proceeded to buy hair dye and scissors and tried to change their appearance. Uriah shaved, they both cut their hair and tried to dye it different colors. You will then hear from Christian how they started getting more and more paranoid. That Thursday, they heard a knocking and they believed cops were there. So they demanded that Christian come home and check. By Friday, they're getting more and more paranoid. Christian, you really need to come home. While this is happening, Terry has realized he's not heard from Tammy. He's asking her, is something wrong? Are you mad at me? And he's getting a couple answers back, but they don't really sound normal. Yeah, just a long day. And ultimately, then his messages stop going through. They change color. He says, have you blocked me? What's wrong? Concerned, Terry calls 911 and goes to Tammy's house, where something he feels is clearly amiss. Because the police have to have aggravating circumstances in order to enter your home, all they had was a girlfriend not answering a boyfriend's text for a day and a half. So the sheriff's office said, we don't have ability to enter. Terry said, well, I'm going to call Chris, Tammy's son, and I'm going to enter. I'm going to make sure she's okay. You will see through Deputy Couch's body cam that ultimately Terry enters that home. And you will watch as Terry walks inside. He notices something doesn't smell right. And then you will see as Terry walks out of the house, sobbing and devastated, saying you need to get in there. What police find when they walk inside is Tammy is lying on that bed where Uriah and Tara had left her. But they had taken sheets and laundry and piled it up all over her body so you could hardly see her. You'll hear from Terry that they moved a washer behind the back door to block the door from being opened. They blocked Tammy's bedroom from the inside. They blocked the window with a mattress. They blocked the front door. They did everything they could to try to hide it. At this point, an investigation begins, and the sheriff's office puts out a press release on that Friday. Terry and Uriah immediately see it, and they are in full-scale panic. At this point, they contact someone named Travis Hodges. You're going to hear from Travis this week. Travis ultimately got charged in this case, too, with hindering apprehension of a known felon, as well as unlawful possession of firearm by a felon and manufacture and delivery of a controlled substance. He has entered a plea agreement with the state to testify. That is, he is going to go to prison for 10 years in exchange for his testimony. Travis is going to tell you that they reached out to him, and they made the decision to go to Laredo instead of Wyoming or Illinois. So the border is going to be their best shot. So you're going to see evidence not just from Terry, or from Travis, I apologize, but also from his car GPS records that they drove from Lake City to Laredo on Friday night into Saturday morning. You'll also hear from an officer of the Freer Police Department that he actually pulled them over on that drive, and you'll be able to see that body cam. You will hear then that once they got to Laredo, they slept in the woods that night. On Saturday, they got a motel room at Motel 6. And at this point, people had started calling in based on that press release. Because of this, the Galveston County Sheriff's Office was able to partner with the U.S. Marshals and DPS on zeroing in on them in Laredo. On that Sunday morning, the 9th, they were checking out of the Motel 6, walked across the street to Dollar General, and were ultimately apprehended by Texas DPS. What you will hear later is when they got back to Galveston, a few days later, the Galveston County Sheriff's Office pulled over Travis Hodges because they learned at this point that he'd driven. When they pull over Travis Hodges, you will hear from him that he said, you're going to want to take these keys with you. That's where the murder weapon is. See, like I stated, Travis was a prior felon, unlawful possession of firearm by a felon. So he said, I can't keep these guns with me. Uriah had given him 2 firearms. And Uriah had told him, there's a body on one of these.
2 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Travis took those firearms, went back and forth on what to do with them, and ultimately purchased a storage unit and put all of those items inside the storage unit. Travis then cooperated with Galveston County Sheriff's Office and gave consent to go in that storage unit where they collected those firearms. What you will also learn in this trial is that all of those firearms got sent off to Texas DPS Crime Lab. What I expect you to hear from Texas DPS is that the shell casing found under Tammy King's bed and the projectile found inside Tammy King's body both come back to that AR-556 that was given to Travis Hodges by Uriah and found in that storage unit. At the end of the day, Tara and Uriah could not wait any longer for the money, for the jewels, for the guns, and to be together. And what could have been just waiting a little longer to be teenagers in love turned into capital murder. At the end of this week, we will ask you that on behalf of Tammy King, who was robbed and killed, to find Mr. Urick guilty of capital murder. Thank you.
Mr. Agnew, you have 15 minutes.
Judge, I'd like to reserve.
Yes, sir, you can do that.
Thank
Only
you.
first witness.
State called Deputy Hunter Couch.